If you were to ask somebody what is the most popular radio ever, they would probably have to say one of these, the Baofeng series of radios, whatever model number it is. This is the UV S9 Plus. Of course, we all know the classic Baofeng UV5R, the one that I think started the Baofeng craze. But what makes these radios so popular, but more importantly, why are they the most hated radio going around? G'day guys, Hayden, KD9SSB, and on this channel, Ham Radio DX, we're all about promoting amateur radio to as many people as possible, showing what a wonderful and fun hobby it is, and also inspiring existing amateur radio operators to try something new that they haven't already maybe tried before in the hobby. But today we're going to be talking again about the Baofeng radio. Now, straight off the bat, the Baofeng radio, no matter what model number it is, has to be the best entry-level handheld radio for new hams. I can think of dozens and dozens of people that have got one of these as their first ever radio, and the reason is because they're so cheap. They are really, really cheap. You can buy them off Amazon for $25, $30, and there's a link in the description below if you want to grab one yourself. They are fairly rugged. So I've got two here. I've got the UV5R and I've got the UV S9 Plus, and they feel that they're well built. They are really, really well built. And if you look at them, like, you wouldn't think that they're a $20 or $30 radio. They are fantastic radios to start off with. A lot of people call them Chinese junk. I'm not quite sure whether that's fair. I know that the UV5R especially has, I'm not sure about the later model Baofengs, but the UV5R has had issues with being spurious and not being clean on its transmitter output. At least here in Australia, they're not type approved, so you can't use them on any other radio service. You can't use them commercially for industry. You can't use them on UHF-CB, but you can use them for amateur radio use in Australia. Now, if you are a starting ham, you've just gotten your ticket, sometimes the first thing you need to do is you need to find a radio, and to be quite honest, they're not the cheapest thing in the world. Traditionally, Yaesu, ICOM, Kenwood, Elinco, insert popular brand here, they were always the radios that everyone would go to when starting off. So when I first purchased my radio, it was a Yaesu. I think my first handheld was an ICOM. I had an ICOM ICT90A, great radio. But again, they were like $200-300, I think, brand new. Compared to one of these, you can buy 10 of these for the same price. So, you know, it's kind of one of those things, you're just getting started in the hobby and you want to get on the air as soon as possible. You can grab one of these off Amazon and you have it within a few days. Like, you're good and you're on the air. Of course, the Baofeng is a dual band radio, so 2 meters and 70 centimeters. You know, 2 amateur bands for 20 bucks, 30 bucks, $15 a band. That's pretty good. There's a couple of things though with the Baofengs, of course. The antenna is not the greatest thing in the world. So if you are picking up one of these, make sure that you get a better antenna, something like a Nagoya Antenna. There's also the Abbree foldable antennas as well. So they're very popular and they work well. You can also get a mag base antenna to put on the roof of the car, or maybe even if you're in an apartment, you can stick it on the balcony somewhere. Again, I'll put a link in the description for some options that you can get when you purchase a Baofeng. But 5 watts doesn't get you very far, but if you are in a popular location for repeaters, if you've got a lot of repeaters around, a lot of activity around, then you can still have fun with a Baofeng quite easily. But again, yes, replace the antenna, because this antenna, or this antenna, which is even shorter, is not very efficient. And of course, handhelds are not very efficient to begin with because they're low power, you're holding them in your hand, you're attenuating the signal. It's, you know, make sure you get a good antenna. There are other couple of things to think about when it comes to the Baofeng radio, especially this one, which I have done a video on before. I'll put a link up into the cards. But the UV S9 Plus, as well as quite a few other brands, this one's not too bad but it does claim that it has a power output of 10 watts, and I'm not sure if you can quite see it there. I think it's out of focus, but it does have a power output rating of 10 watts claimed. It's nowhere near 10 watts, so ignore those. If you have a look, there is other ridiculous adverts that say like 100-watt radio, you know, 200 kilometers range, all these other things. They're not true. Most Baofengs are 5-watt radios. I think there are a couple that are 8 watts. The difference between 5 and 8 watts is ridiculously negligible. You won't notice any difference, but the majority of Baofengs are 5 watts. So just one thing to keep in mind when you're buying them. Let me know in the comments below if you own one of these. I reckon I'm gonna get a lot of comments because I can almost guarantee that there is one of these in every single ham shack. And if there isn't, you know, I mean, you buy one of these, 20, 30 bucks, and you go out hiking or you take it on a rough trip or something like that. I'm not afraid to lose this. I'm not afraid to break it because it's 30 bucks if I do. If I've got a $200 handheld and I drop that, or I break it, or I lose it, then I'm gonna be a bit annoyed and I'm gonna be a bit upset. But one of these, I'll be just like, well, okay, I'll just buy another one. So they're kind of disposable radios, if that's a very good term. I don't know if that's a very good term or not, but you know, I reckon I'm gonna get a lot of comments below. Let me know if you've got a Baofeng. My thoughts are that the hobby needs to be easier to access. It needs to be easier to get into. So that includes everything from, you know, doing the exam. We've got great entry-level examination in, say, the United States. You've got the technician exam. In the United Kingdom, you've got the foundation, as well as Australia, you've got the foundation entry-level licenses as well. So anything that sort of helps amateur radio and helps ham radio and people to get interested in ham radio is a great thing, and I think Baofengs are definitely high up on that list. They allow people to get on the air easy. They let people dip their toes into ham radio before splashing out maybe on a HF radio or maybe even a better handheld or a mobile unit. So I think from that point of view, having a Baofeng in your shack is not a bad thing. Don't let anyone say you shouldn't buy a Baofeng. If you want to buy a Baofeng as your first radio, then by all means go for it, because I think they're a great thing for the hobby. And I think after a while we need to recognize that these are not going away. The Chinese radios are not going away. There's a lot of good Chinese radios coming out. And they're already out there, like I think of the Xiyu G90 as well. That's an HF SDR radio. That's really great popular radio. And again, another Chinese radio, the same as the Baofeng. So, you know, these things are great, and you know, they might not have the best battery life or whatever, but you know, they're chuck in the suitcase, chuck in the hiking pack, take it wherever you want. Rugged, good to go. So are they Chinese junk? I don't think they are. I think they're very, very good for the hobby. So as long as they're not interfering and they're not causing harmful interference to other services, as far as an entry-level radio, they're just perfect. Now the two radios that I've got, the UV5R and the UV S9 Plus right here, I've done reviews on those. You can click right here to watch that now. I'll see you over there.